Then when we think about that, and we don't think enough about it, our tight little grabbing hands begin just to relax a little. I don't say a lot because we only have a small beginning of the new obedience. We relax our hands just a little, and then maybe with all that effort that we make to try and keep our whole hands closed, to hold on to what we've got, and then grab a bit besides, maybe our hands even begin to open just a little. And maybe even we find it in ourselves, by God's grace, as we ought to give, to do unto others as we would have them do to us, to seek their advantage and not just our own. Even with my neighbour, the guy next door, even with the guy with whom I have to deal and trade and buy and sell. And if we can find ourselves doing that, we know we're making a little progress in the life we must live as the children of the living God. I said two things. The second one is, further also that I faithfully labour, so that I may be able to relieve the needy. Here again we say, but I thought that was the fourth commandment, faithful labour. So it's required not only by the fourth commandment, working, and then a day of rest, or rather in the New Testament, a day of rest, and then out of that working, but also here in the eighth commandment, and again we see they're interrelated. They're interrelated. We must faithfully labour. And labour so as to be able to relieve the needy means gainful employment, which of course assumes that you have health to do work yourself, that your family responsibilities make that possible for you, and that you are able to get a job. So assuming those things are true, then you work. You work faithfully all your hours, and don't just sign in for another 15 minutes when you weren't there. You work honestly and you work hard. Then this commandment says that we do not work simply to obtain money for yourself and your family, but you also work consciously too in order to have money to give to others. And that you fulfill this responsibility by working, gaining some money, and by giving it, one, to the church, which administers financial assistance in the form of benevolence, and two, personally, which also includes the giving of hospitality. And you do both. You don't just say, well, I give to the church, and that means I don't have to give to anybody at all. I've done that, finished. And you don't just give personally and say, well, stuff the church. You do both as and when you have possibility, opportunity. And you say, why must we do this? Well, we must do this because the 8th commandment says, thou shalt not steal. And if God has given you finances and ability to help the poor, then it is stealing if you do not. And this is confessional with us, that we must have this desire and to be able to relieve the needy. So to say again, you might have thought, the 8th commandment, that's an easy one. 7th commandment, committing adultery, that's a tough one. Coveting, the 10th's a hard one. The 4th commandment, the 1st commandment, all hard ones. But the 8th commandment, a nice soft one, a Sunday evening where we're not going to be hit too hard. But it's not. You know, you could say it there, every last one of them very hard, even for us Christians. We're called here to put on contentment, Christian love, faithfulness and generosity, to put off greed and envy and money grabbing and shifty dealing, and to care for our neighbour, love him in his earthly goods and welfare. And that's what we've got to do by God's grace, because we're thankful. We've been redeemed, we've been bought, we owe it. Amen.